Hello, we're in the greenhouse today. It's really windy outside. Reminds me of some of the experiences I had with this greenhouse through the past 12 months. I've had it nearly 2 years now, and at times it's been a struggle to hang on to it, to be honest. So this is an 8x6 aluminium framed polycarbonate sheet greenhouse, and when I built this greenhouse, that's probably when I should have recorded this video, but to be honest, there was so much stress involved in the building of that greenhouse, there was no way I could have shot any film. There just wasn't. It was horrendous. It was a nightmare. In fact, it was a nightmare. So I can't do an unboxing because the greenhouse is built now, but I can tell you about the unboxing. And yeah, I can tell you about the unboxing and the surprises I got when I unboxed and what that led to. Okay, so I've already told you it's an 8x6 aluminium greenhouse, and it's polycarbonate sheets. Okay. Got these props from the Homegrown Veg prop store. These are just some pieces of rocket stick, and I hope I can explain this well now, because as I've said, the unboxing was 2 years ago. But this should do the trick, and this will leave you gobsmacked, because it left me gobsmacked, I'll tell you that. Right. That's the base of the greenhouse. 8 foot, 8 foot, 6 foot, 6 foot. Okay, bolt it together. And then we have the side walls, don't we? Like so. And on top of the side walls, 8 foot by 8 foot. Hope you're with me on this. And then at the apex of the roof, another length, another unit, 8 foot long. Okay. So, when we unbox the greenhouse, we have two boxes from memory. We have a long flat pack box that has all the polycarbonate sheets in, and we have a long thin box that has all these members in, and all the other struts and braces that come with the greenhouse, and the nuts and bolts. Okay, so we empty the box out that contains all these struts. Okay, and we sort them out into lengths, and we get everything, and we look at the manuals and blah blah blah. And I'm looking for these 8 foot members, and I can't find anything in the box that's 8 foot long. I can find these 6 foot members, but I can't find these 8 foot members. So I'll go and have a look at the instructions. Oh, let me show you this. Give me strength, and I'm telling you, that's a pun and it's deliberate. Give me strength. Okay, so that's the base of the greenhouse, right? The box that these struts came in was no more than 6 foot long. So we can get that strut in, that'll fit in the box. We can get that strut in, that'll fit in the box. These guys are 2 foot too long, they're 8 foot. The box is only just and so over 6 foot. How are we going to get these two in? How are we going to get these 5 in? How are we going to get them in a box that isn't long enough? Hey, watch in disbelief. They'll fit in. They'll fit in. Hey, look at this. We're going to get all these bits in that box that isn't 6 foot long. But what have we done in the process? What have we done? We've chopped the greenhouse in half. Come on, stay with me on this. We've now chop the greenhouse in half. Give me strength. Give me strength. Give my greenhouse strength. What are they doing? They've actually chopped the greenhouse in half so that it'll fit in a box. Well, you know, where's this? Come on, they've chopped the greenhouse in half so it would fit into a box. Now then, when we come to build this, when I finally fathomed this, well, for this to be any good, it's got to be joined together. For this to be any good, it's got to be joined together. It's got to be joined together. These two have got to be joined together. It's got to be joined together. So, we've got to build these things up. So let me ask you this. If you've got something that's 8 foot long and you want to weaken it, how would you do that? What about snapping it in half? That sounds a good idea. Yes, snap it in half. Ah, but hold on. You need it to be 8 foot long. Ah, well, what we'll do is we'll put some fish plates on these members and bolt them back together again. Bolt them back together again? You should never have broke them. Dear me. So, and I'm going to show you this. We're going outside shortly. I'm going to show you this. So, to make this back into an 8 foot member, we have a fish plate and 6 bolts. To make this back into an 8 foot member, fish plate, 6 bolts. To make this into an 8 foot member, fish plate, 6 bolts. Fish plate, 6 bolts. Fish plate, 6 bolts. Well, you wouldn't keep up with me with the maths, but I'll tell you now. That's 30 bolts, 30 nuts and bolts, just to put back together what they've chopped in half. I haven't started building a greenhouse yet. I'm only putting back together what shouldn't have been taken apart in the first place. They should have come as solid units. So now, where's the weakness in this greenhouse, if there is a weakness? Well, hasn't it got to be there? Where these things are, right in the middle of the greenhouse. Right, we're going outside. I'm going to show you 6 bolts and 6 in the top and double it up for the other side, and Bob's your uncle. And the only 2 other things that came that were 8 foot long were the gutter ins that go on the side. Okay, so there's a gutter in that catches the rain. You can drop the rain off at each end. And those gutter ins were 8 foot long. What did they do? You're right. They cut the gutters in half. So I got 2 gutters. Now, when you come to put the gutter in on and the gutters go together, okay, there's no joint in the middle. There was no joint in that gutter in. So the rain sheds off the roof into the gutter in. It's supposed to come off at each end. Some of it's coming off in the middle because there's no joint. So that's something else that needs a bit of a Heath Robinson to sort it out. Blimey. Hey, come on outside. I'm going to show you this stuff now. Come on. These are the 6 nuts and bolts on the roof section, on the ridge of the roof. Six nuts and bolts at the top of the side wall. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the same on the other side. That's 12 nuts and bolts. This is the join in the gutter in that I've put some tape on. Same on the other side. These are the 6 nuts and bolts on the base of the greenhouse, on the bottom of the side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Same on the other side. Blimey, there's more bolts in this than I thought there was. There's 8 in the bottom of the side and 6 in the top of the side, that's 14, and the same on the other side, that's another 14, that's 28, and 6 in the ridge, 6 on the top, that's 34. Blimey, there's even more bolts than I thought there was. 34 bolts to hold those 8-foot members back together that were only chopped in half so they would fit in a box. Oh, it's tragic, man. Tragic. Hey, what do you think of that? Right. Let's get on to the day of the build. Okay. The instructions. Okay, so the instructions say when you get the sheets in, at that point you might want to put some mastic down the side of the sheet to secure it to the frame, but that isn't absolutely necessary, but you might want to do it. Well, I'm here to tell you it's 100% necessary, and you do need to do it. And if you're going to get one of these greenhouses, make sure you've got a mastic gun on hand so that you can do it straight away. Don't leave it. Once you've got it built, get those sheets masticed in. And secondly, the other piece of information that it gives is that this isn't a one-man job. You're building this greenhouse. It's a two-man job. Well, I had my wife with me, and it took us about 10 hours start to finish, and unfortunately for us, although we started fairly early in the morning, we didn't start early enough and it nearly got dark on us, and although it was a calm day when we started, it did start to rain, so we were probably rained on for about 5 or 6 hours. And the problem with building these things is if you leave them half built, chances are they won't be there in the morning because they are so flimsy. So the advice from the supplier is you need a second pair of hands. You need another person to help you. I'm telling you now, you need an octopus. You need an octopus because there's so many bits of this and it's flimsy sticking up in the air with one bolt holding it in place. It's just wanting to fall over, it's wanting to twist, it's wanting to bend. The more hands you can get on this job when you build your greenhouse, the better. And let me show you this. Now, they don't tell you this in the instructions. There's the nuts and bolts. Okay, small aluminium nut, small aluminium bolt, and the bolt itself goes into a groove and whatever member's going on there, and then you tighten the nut. Okay, now then, when you first start building this and it isn't stable because it's half built, there is a tendency to want to give those a bit of a nip because these things look as though they're going to fall over. But if you put a nip on these bolts, you can get them. Okay, so you put a nip on the bolts, and then because there are so many pieces to this, chances are something's in the wrong place. You've bolted something where it shouldn't go, so you need to unbolt it. Okay, so you're going to take the bolt out, take the member out, put the right member in, put the bolt back in and tighten it. But what you find is, because you've nipped this bolt, because you've tightened it, you've over tightened it, and what happens is you've got an aluminium nut going onto an aluminium thread, and when you over tighten it, the thread picks up, so the nut and the bolt become as one. It fouls up, it won't tighten anymore. You've over tightened it, but don't worry because you're slackening it. So what happens is it starts to slacken and then it binds up again and you can't get the nut off. No matter how hard you try, you cannot get that nut off. So, well, okay, we'll maybe have to live with this, we'll tighten it. But it now won't tighten either. It's got to a position where it's not tight and you can't get the nut off. Only thing you can do is get hold of the head and turn and turn and turn till you snap the bolt. you've got to snap that bolt to get it out, because the nut picks up on the threads of the bolt and they bind up. Now, that happened to me at least half a dozen times, where I'd over tightened, and I'd over tightened because things were moving and I didn't want things to move. So when I come to slacken off, they wouldn't slacken off, they bound up, and I had to snap them. And I got to a point where I had to start and count the nuts and bolts. I thought, I'm going to run out of nuts and bolts. I've broke that many. Blimey, what a pantomime. Anyway, where are we at now? What have we done? We've done that. Yeah, so I'm going to cut you to some video shortly. It's video I shot this year because I think we had several storms visit the United Kingdom this year, and I think we got at least 4 of them came across my garden, and on every occasion I thought I was going to lose the greenhouse, on every occasion. And I had to beef it up, and I've beefed it up, and I've produced a video that shows you what I did to beef it up. But if there's one word of advice I would give you, if you do go for one of these greenhouses, don't wait until you're in a storm situation before you beef it up. Assume that it's flimsy and you're going to lose it when there's a big wind, and beef it up. Beef it up on your time scale, not on the storm's time scale. Now, what happens to me, and it will happen to you if you don't take my advice on this, you'll keep a lookout for the storms, you'll be watching TV and the weatherman will tell you the storm's coming in, and it'll come in through the day, and you'll keep popping out looking at your greenhouse, and you can see it looks as though it's moving, but yeah, it's okay, yeah, you're getting away with it. And then evening comes, blinds come down, draw the curtains, you're in your gym jams, you're in your nightie, you're in your onesie, you've got your cup of tea, you've got your cup of coffee, you're watching telly. Somebody says, it's windy out there, isn't it? And I think it's stronger than it was before. Do you want to have a look at that greenhouse? Aye, okay. So now we're in the dead of night. It's pouring down, it's blowing a gale. You're looking out of brightness into darkness. You don't like what you see, but you can't actually make it out because you're looking out of brightness into darkness. So you look for your torch. That's the first thing you need to find, a torch. Without coming outside, can you see with a torch? Well, when you get the torch on your greenhouse, whoa! It looks as though the roof's coming off. Wow! Now, it's action stations now, but at the wrong time. It's pouring down, it's blowing a gale, you're in your gym jams, and it's night, you can't see what you're doing, but you've got to come and try and rescue your greenhouse. So you get dressed, you shoot out, and you do the best you can to save your greenhouse until you can get a better shot at it the next day. I've done that on a couple of occasions. I wouldn't recommend it. But anyway, have a look at this video now, and then come back to me. Hello. Just a few days ago, I nearly lost my greenhouse to the wind. I have strengthened it using some nice gold tile edging strip. This should stop the sheets being blown in by the wind, but provides no safeguard against the sheets being sucked out by the wind. Here at Homegrown Veg in the UK, we are between storms. We have just had Storm Ciara, and Storm Dennis should make landfall in a day or two. I'm just back from the local seashore. Check this out. Thanks to everyone who sent me suggestions on securing the polycarbonate sheets and suggestions on how to stop the vibrations loosening the nuts and bolts in my greenhouse. The polycarbonate sheets are now stuck to the tile edging strip with sellotape. Let's go into the greenhouse and check it out. Well, that looks as though it's worked. Much quieter, no vibration, and the polycarbonate sheets are much more secure. The current raft of storms scudding in off the Atlantic will be a stern test. Hope you have enjoyed this video. This is Homegrown Veg, signing out. These strips that you've seen around the greenhouse, these are edging strips for tiles. So if you've got a tile kitchen where there's an exposed edge, you'll have something like this, an edging strip. It's light aluminium, these are gold. The reason I got these gold edging strips was because they were just about giving them away, because apparently gold isn't in fashion anymore. So I can't recall what I paid for these. It was next to nothing. Mind you, it nearly got me a criminal record, but that's another story, and I've done that on another video. But yeah, so what I found was these sheets that are captivated by the greenhouse members. They want to flex in high winds, and they flex in and they flex out, and if the uprights were to part slightly, in other words if the nuts and bolts weren't tight, these could flop out, they could flip out, and then we are in trouble. So I put these extra strengtheners on. Okay, and my understanding was that the wind would be blowing outside the greenhouse and trying to blow these in, blow the panels in. But what I actually found from being in the greenhouse on a stormy day, that not only does it want to blow them in, it wants to suck them out. It wants to take them that way as well. So these strengtheners stop them. These strengtheners stop the panels blowing in. You can see that. But they're not actually secured to the panel. So if the panel wants to blow in that direction, if the wind wants to suck it out, these are not going to provide any strengthening, are they? And my first thought was, well, yeah, pop a few holes in here, some nuts and bolts, some fixings, that should do the job. But I thought, this greenhouse is weak enough to start with. It's not the strongest of greenhouses, and I didn't want to weaken these sheets anymore by drilling holes in them. So what I've actually done is I put a run of sellotape across the gold member and the polycarbonate sheet. Now then, that's been on 12 months. Doesn't seem to have deteriorated, and if I push this, normally it would push away from this gold bar unless it was secured to it, and if it was secured to it, it would take the gold bar with it, would it not? Check this out. I hope you can see this. See how that gold bar's moving? That's because it's sellotaped to the polycarbonate sheet. Okay, so it was a bit noisy in the greenhouse, wasn't it? But those gold bars seem to have done the trick. But it won't be long, the storms are coming again, and I think the storms came last year. In fact, I think I've got some information on storms. I've got a list off the internet of all the storms we had last year in the UK. I'll post it up now. And I think, as you can see, we've got a few storms in February. They came across us, and they were the ones that nearly took the greenhouse. And I don't know if these things come that time of year regularly, or if it's different times of year. But if that's storm season, and you've got a polycarbonate greenhouse, then you maybe need to get it beefed up before they arrive. Okay, so we're going to wind it up now. I hope you've enjoyed this video. One thing I'd like you to do though before you go, have a look at other videos on YouTube about polycarbonate greenhouses. I've looked at a lot, and they fall into two categories. The first category is a video that's been produced by someone who sells polycarbonate greenhouses. The second one is someone who's built a polycarbonate greenhouse, or unboxes a polycarbonate greenhouse, or is growing in a polycarbonate greenhouse. Okay, so the first one is the professionals. They're building a polycarbonate greenhouse that they want to sell to you. Now it may take them 2, 3, 4, 5 hours. I don't know how long it'll take them, but they've got to condense that down into like a 5 or 6 minute video. So the way they do that is, where there's any snags, where there's any problems, they cut those bits out of the video, so it looks as though the greenhouse goes up seamlessly. And you'll also notice that if they're not building on a big square concrete level slab, they're building on a big square area of decking. So they've got a good footing underneath them, and generally they've got some big high fences fairly close to where they're building to keep the wind off. Hey, so I mean, if you're going to go for one of these greenhouses, are you going to do that? Are you going to have a big area of decking, big area of concrete? Have you got big fences up so that when you build the greenhouse you're sheltered, and when the storms come your greenhouse is sheltered? And the other thing they actually don't show you on the videos is how the greenhouse is fixed to the ground. Well, this particular design of greenhouse has 4 short legs on it, 1 in each corner. I think they're about 1 foot long. And the idea is when you sit it down, you dig a hole, and those 4 legs go into the holes, and then you fill the holes with concrete, so you concrete it down. I don't think I've seen a video that's actually shown that, but that's how you fix these guys down, otherwise they'll blow away. And what you find when you get in here, in storm conditions, because they're only fixed in the corners, the side walls belly. They're sucked out and they're blown in, and they're sucked out and they're blown in, because they're not fixed in the middle to anything. The base is only fixed at the corners. Now, yeah, you could say, well, drill some holes and do this and do that and do the other. You shouldn't need to do that, should you? You shouldn't need to do that. You shouldn't need to put all kinds of strengthening in. You shouldn't need to use mastic. You shouldn't need to use tape. The window keeps you, well, it did. The window was blowing open a lot because the latch that they gave me was useless. I've got an automatic vent on there now, and I've actually got that tied shut at the moment. And I think the day that I came out, when I nearly lost the greenhouse, well, I nearly lost it a couple of times. When I came out, the door had blown off. You know, it's a sliding door, and they're nothing to write home about, to be honest. They're not. Okay, let me show you this. This is one of the struts that I've replaced in the greenhouse with something a bit more substantial. Let me just show you this. I hope I can get this up a bit closer. This is how thick the material this strut is that's holding my greenhouse together. That's a matchstick next to it. Can you see that? I hope you can. It's not as thick as a matchstick. It's not as thick as a matchstick. Blimey, How thin is that? So what is it as thick as? Carrot seeds, okay. Packet's already opened, and I always secure the packet again if I don't use all the seeds with a paper clip. Hey, look at this. This is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it is. It's ridiculous. Have you got it again? Paper clip. Let me straighten it out. Let me straighten this paper clip out, and you'll see it better. Right, are we ready for this? It's the same thickness as a paper clip. It's this. When they described this greenhouse as being lightweight, that was an understatement, wasn't it? Some of these members are only as thick as a paper clip. In fact, I would go so far as to say the paint on this member is thicker than the aluminium that it's made of. There's more paint than aluminium. Phew, man alive. Anyway, watch the video of the people who try to sell you a polycarbonate greenhouse, then contrast that with the people who are actually building a polycarbonate greenhouse. And hey, send them a comment, tell me you've watched their video and ask their advice. And if you've had experiences of polycarbonate greenhouses, send me a comment, let me know what you think. Okay, right, I need a cup of tea. So before I go, what I'm going to do is on this table, I'm going to put you a couple of links to videos that I've done earlier this year. One of them actually, in strengthening this greenhouse, nearly got me a criminal record, would you believe? Well, that was funny. Well, it wasn't funny at the time, but it's funny now. Yeah, I nearly got a criminal record out of that one. I'll pin a couple of videos onto this table. You might want to watch those as well. Okay, so this is Homegrown Veg, signing out.